The story begins with three close friends who consider themselves brothers: Wong, Fei, and Kwok. They are members of a gang, tasked with delivering a large sum of money belonging to their organization. As the trio drive toward their destination, their car suddenly comes to a halt in the middle of the road. To their surprise, they are blocked from the front and rear by two black vans. Realizing that someone is after the money, the three brothers quickly arm themselves with knives and step out of the car to face the impending threat. Despite being outnumbered, the three brothers remain calm and composed. With a nonchalant air, they toss the briefcase containing the money to the side, showing no fear in the face of danger. To confuse their enemies, the brothers split up and run in different directions. Wong, the eldest of the three, chooses to confront the attackers head-on, engaging them in a bold and direct fight. After the struggle, Wong and his brothers regroup. However, they soon discover that the briefcase they were supposed to protect is gone. Fei and Kwok admit that the enemies managed to seize it, and there was nothing they could do to stop them. As a result, the three brothers must face the consequences of their failure in front of their gang leaders and the elder. The most humiliated by this failure is their boss, Mark Chung, who is left speechless. Among the gang members, Kwai Lu is the most vocal in blaming the trio, ranting incessantly about their incompetence. Taking responsibility for his subordinate's failure, Mark Chung stands up and administers their punishment, a beating with a wooden stick. Once the punishment is over, Kwai Lu is seen approaching several other gang bosses. This is related to the upcoming election for the new gang leader, which will take place in a few weeks. The chosen leader will not only oversee all the gangs, but also control their businesses. It was revealed that Kwai Lu is trying to win the support of these bosses to secure his position as the next leader. Unfortunately for Kwai Lu, despite his attempts to charm and persuade them, the other bosses clearly see Mark Chung as the most suitable leader. This becomes evident when they all stand up and leave Kwai Lu sitting alone, abandoned and defeated. Meanwhile, Wong, Fei, and Kwok are soaking in a sauna, trying to recover from the day's events. Soon, Mark Chung joins them, revealing his true nature. In front of the elder and the other bosses, Mark Chung appears stern and intimidating, but in reality, he is a kind and caring leader. He apologizes for having to punish them earlier, explaining that it was necessary to maintain the gang's dignity. Wong, Fei, and Kwok understand this completely and hold no grudges. Later that night, Wong is shocked to discover that the briefcase wasn't actually stolen. Instead, it had been hidden by his two younger brothers, Kwok and Fei. When Wong confronts them, they finally reveal the truth. Kwok admits he needed the money to pay off a debt to a loan shark, while Fei explains that his younger sister urgently needs funds for a surgery. Wong found himself in a deep dilemma over the situation. After Fei and Kwok had honestly explained their problems, Wong reluctantly agreed to borrow some of the gang's money to cover the surgery costs for Fei's younger sister. Once the surgery was completed and Fei's sister had recovered, Wong, Fei, and Kwok were forced to seek out a collector of stolen goods to find work and earn back the money they had used. The job they were offered involved stealing jewelry, which, according to the information they received, was stored in a shop located in a supermarket complex. Without hesitation, the three brothers sprang into action that very night. However, Wong, Fei, and Kwok were shocked to discover that the target wasn't jewelry at all, it was drugs. Despite their surprise, they were already in too deep and decided to proceed with the plan. Unexpectedly, a group of thugs showed up, intending to take the drugs for themselves. This led to another confrontation, forcing the brothers to fight once again. After the scuffle, Wong, Fei, and Kwok confronted the collector for an explanation. The collector finally came clean, revealing that the target had indeed been drugs all along, and to their astonishment, the drugs belonged to none other than Kwai Lu. Despite the deception, the collector still paid Wong, Fei, and Kwok the agreed-upon amount. Wong used part of the money to replace what they had taken from the gang's funds and gave the rest to Fei and Kwok to cover their personal needs, Fei for his sister's ongoing medical expenses, and Kwok to pay off his debts. Without wasting any time, Wong went to Mark Chung to return the missing money. Mark Chung, however, was no fool and immediately pressed Wong for an explanation about the source of the funds. Wong eventually confessed, admitting that the money had been used to help his brothers, especially Fei. Wang braced himself for the shame of admitting his mistakes in front of his boss. Yet, despite the gravity of the situation, Mark Chung remained calm, wise, and understanding. Instead of lashing out in anger, he instructed Wang, Fei, and Kwok to keep the matter quiet and ensure that no one else found out about their actions. Meanwhile, Kwok was seen paying off a loan he had taken out to invest in the stock market. Rather than learning his lesson and quitting, Kwok was tempted once again after seeing news about falling stock prices. He returned to the loan shark to borrow more money, hoping to strike it rich this time. Unfortunately, luck was not on his side. The stocks he invested in plummeted, and he lost all the borrowed money. Now, Kwok had no choice but to face the loan shark's boss, who turned out to be Kwai Lu, the rival gang leader opposing Mark Chung. To make matters worse, the collector was also there, badly beaten, and Kwok soon found himself in a similar predicament. The next day, Kwai Lu gathered all the gang bosses in front of the elder, seemingly armed with a trump card to bring down Mark Chung. Arrogantly, Kwai Lu brought out Kwok, who was locked in a dog cage, and forced him to confess. Fortunately, the elder intervened, preventing the situation from escalating further. As a wise and respected figure, the elder advised against resorting to violence to solve every problem. As punishment for their actions, Wang, Fei, and Kwok were expelled from the gang and forbidden from joining any other group. Sometime later, on a towering overpass, Wang is seen confronts Fei and Kwok, venting his frustration, particularly at Kwok, who always seems to be a burden. With the harsh reality that they are no longer members of the gang, Wang, Fei, and Kwok are now just ordinary men without jobs or purpose. After the heated exchange, Wang goes to bid farewell to Mark Chung. In this emotional moment, the bond between them shines through as Mark Chung sincerely hands Wang a sum of money to help him start a new life. The gesture deeply moves Wang, leaving him touched by his boss's generosity. After saying his goodbyes, Mark Chung heads to meet Kwai Lu to discuss a critical matter. Having spent years in the gang world, Mark Chung knows Kwai Lu's character and mindset all too well. Even though Wang, Fei, and Kwok are no longer part of the gang, Kwai Lu would still seek to eliminate them for stealing his drugs. To prevent this, Mark Chung pleads with Kwai Lu to spare their lives. He even offers to withdraw from the upcoming leadership election, leaving the path clear for Kwai Lu to take control. However, as soon as Mark Chung leaves, Kwai Lu sends his men to hunt down Fei and Kwok in separate locations. Fortunately, Wang, Fei, and Kwok manage to fight back and survive the attacks. But Kwai Lu's vengeance doesn't stop there. He also sends his best men to assassinate Mark Chung at his own residence. True to his reputation as a formidable leader, Mark Chung calmly faces his attackers, inviting them to strike first. Mark Chung successfully defeats all his assailants, sparing one to deliver a message to Kwai Lu. However, during the fight, Mark Chung suffers a stab wound to his abdomen. When Wang arrives to help, it's too late. Mark Chung succumbs to his injuries, the blade having pierced his internal organs. Wang can only watch helplessly, staying by Mark Chang's side as he takes his final breaths. The next day, at Mark Chang's funeral, members from various gangs gather to pay their respects. Despite being expelled from the gang, Wang, Fei, and Kwok insist on attending. When Kwai Lu arrives, he shamelessly accuses Wang and his brothers of killing Mark Chung, claiming it was an act of revenge for their expulsion. Wang grows even more furious when Kwai Lu whispers to him that he was the one who orchestrated Mark Chang's murder. Time passes, and the day of the leadership election arrives. Kwai Lu emerges as the chosen candidate to become the new leader of the gang. The elder, bound by the rules, can do nothing to stop it. At the same time, Wang, Fei, and Kwok are consumed by their desire for revenge. They see Kwai Lu as the man who killed Mark Chung, whom they regarded as a father figure. Determined to restore their honor and avenge Mark Chang's death, the three brothers vow to take matters into their own hands. They rally their trusted allies and prepare for a final, decisive confrontation with Kwai Lu. On the other hand, Kwai Lu is seen celebrating his victory as the new leader of the gang. Although the elder disapproves of this decision, there is nothing they can do, as no one dares to step forward as a rival candidate to Kwai Lu. Not long after, with an innocent expression, Kuai Lu delivers a speech in front of the bosses, pretending to still mourn the death of Mark Sheng. As his speech grows increasingly excessive and irrelevant, Wang, Fei, and Kwok arrive with their own forces, ready to challenge him. What follows is a fierce battle between the two factions, one supporting Kuai Lu and the other remaining loyal to Mark Sheng. At that moment, Wang, Fei, and Kwok stand out as the most prominent leaders, fighting with adrenaline-fueled determination. However, in this situation, Kwok accidentally damages a towering bamboo pole, causing it to collapse and crush many people, including Kuai Lu. Despite the chaos, Kuai Lu manages to stand and attempts to escape in a car. Fei tries to stop him, but is struck down by Kuai Lu's vehicle. Wang is consumed with rage when he sees Fei impaled by a bamboo stake. Meanwhile, Kwok climbs onto the car and delivers one final attack, but he too succumbs to his injuries after being struck in the neck. Shortly after, the police arrive at the scene. Wang hesitates for a moment, torn over whether to end Kuai Lu's life. But with the deaths of Mark Sheng, Fei, and Kwok weighing heavily on him, Wang decides to follow through with his intent. This leaves the police with no choice but to take decisive action, and they shoot Wang. After the deaths of Wang, Fei, and Kwok, all that remains is Fei's younger sister, now fully recovered, accompanied by Fong Ting, her friend who once had feelings for Wang. To honor the memory of the three brothers, Fei's sister and Fong Ting release Wang's cherished lighter into the air, a final tribute to their sacrifice. The end. Moral lesson from the story: always check the briefcase before running away from a fight. It might just be empty, and you'll end up in a sauna with your boss instead of being a hero. Also, if your friend keeps borrowing money for stocks, maybe hide his phone before he bankrupts you both.